Welcome to the Clean Power Hour Live. It is March 30th, 2023. I'm Tim Montague, your co-host. The Clean Power Hour is brought to you by Clean Power Hour is brought to you by Chint Power Systems, CPS America, the maker of North America's #1 three-phase string inverter with over 6 gigawatts shipped in the US. The CPS America product lineup includes three-phase string inverters ranging from 25 kW to 275 kW. Their flagship inverter, the CPS 250/275, is designed to work with solar plants ranging from 2 megawatts to 2 gigawatts. The 250/275 pairs well with CPS America's exceptional data communication and controls and energy storage solutions. Go to chintpowersystems.com to find out more. Check out all of our content at cleanpowerhour.com. Please give us a rating and a review on Apple and Spotify. But most importantly, talk to your friends about the Clean Power Hour. We want them to know about the show. We do this live every Thursday, and we drop a pre-recorded interview on Tuesdays. I want to welcome my co-host and PV Magazine journalist and solar developer, the commercial solar guy, John Weaver. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Tim. Hi, Tim.
You have so many titles, John. I can't keep up with them.
Yeah, neither can I. I would just like to do. I'd like to be a regular solar sales guy one of these days, but not yet.
Nah, come on.
Not yet. Yeah.
Life is too rich for that.
Of course. Who wants to just have one normal
How
job?
goes the solar development business anyway?
Complex. We're working on some small one-off projects on our own, which are nice. We're seeking as a company to find our next portfolio level to get involved with. So, 5 to 10 projects we'd like. We're thinking about Pennsylvania. We're getting a couple of opportunities for projects. Somebody reached out to us on a 3 megawatt project. They're seeking an owner. They have offtake and interconnection in place and site control. So just got to figure out if maybe we can fit in there, being a contractor to build it and maybe sell it or even own it. Who knows?
That is the magic combination, right? You got to have an off-taker, you got to have an interconnection, and you got to have a site control. Once you have those things, solar is a very doable business.
Yeah.
Those are the majority of the risk, I would say.
Yeah, you still need zoning approved. But this is in Pennsylvania, so zoning's a little easier, and the particular site's been vetted, so it's solid. But yeah, I mean, if you got site control, if you have some hint that it can be built, if you have interconnection and a PPA, that's it. Those are your legs. Those are your 3/4 legs that are necessary to move a project forward. So it's been offered, but I know it's with 5 other solar developers, so we'll see who comes out on top and figures it out. Other people.
A great industry. It's very competitive, and it's getting more competitive. But it's going to grow. We're going to 10x in the next 30 years, and so there's lots of cream for everyone and lots of jobs, lots of manufacturing. We're onshoring manufacturing in droves now, which is really mission critical for the U.S., right? We want all these factories to come back to America so we can have our own homemade solar panels and batteries and inverters and racking, all of this stuff, right?
All the good stuff.
It's just too much of a headache to deal with. Honestly, that's the thing that's on my mind about shipping stuff halfway across the world. It's just too much of a headache. Let's make it here. Those are good paying jobs, and we gotta make our costs competitive with the global marketplace, which is challenging, but that's what the IRA legislation is for, and it's working. And the CHIPS Act. I've been learning more about chips. And that's a big deal too, right? 75% of the world's chips are made in Taiwan. And, there's a war brewing in Taiwan, unfortunately. I hope it doesn't turn into a full-fledged war, but the military-industrial complex, I think, wants that war, because it's just cash flow for them, right?
What a strange concept. Fight some people for cash flow.
The modern world we've invented, it is a double edge. It's a beautiful life, but it is also a dark world. And I listened to Lex Friedman's podcast with Sam Altman, who is the CEO of OpenAI, the company that invented ChatGPT 3,
Cool.
there's a new product, um, GP4. It's got a
Yes.
slightly unique name, and
It's I think it's Chat GPT 4.0.
I
That's
don't think they
yeah.
put the word chat in the name.
Oh,
It's just GPT-4. For some
okay.
reason, they they tweak the names slightly from all these different versions, but literally, and it's a wonderful interview. Sam Altman is an amazing guy. He was the CEO of Y Combinator, one of the preeminent
Uh,
incubators in Silicon Valley for tech startups, and a very smart, passionate guy from Chicago originally. Um, and OpenAI was funded by some big companies like Microsoft and Elon Musk, and because they get it, right. We need to have safe AI. But did you notice that Musk and company wrote a letter to the world saying, "Hey, we think you should back off on the AGI development." So I'll finish my story, then we'll get
yeah.
on to the solar, wind, and storage news, John, because you've curated a wonderful list for us today. A lot of EV stuff, a lot of storage, wind, and solar, of course.
And so,
But I listened to the interview with Lex Friedman and Sam Altman, and I literally had nightmares about the AGI.
yeah.
And because these guys are like some of the preeminent experts on artificial intelligence in the world. Lex Friedman is a legit AI engineer, right? He's working on autonomous driving, I think, especially. But they're they're talking about the AI becoming conscious, and like we're knocking on that doorstep, and how the AI might know that it's deceiving its master and yet proceeds to deceive its master. It's pretty freaky.
I mean, we should assume it's going to happen. I mean, that's life. I mean, I mean, who the heck am I to be talking about this type of stuff? I do solar power, but uh,
Well, it's
we,
fun.
yeah, well, of course it's fun. We as humans tend consistently to underestimate the mental capabilities of people around us, of our enemies, of humans, and let alone animals. I mean, we still look at elephants and bonobos and dolphins as sub creatures, and
Yeah.
these animals, we're an animal. These animals are top tier brain, cognitive, sentient creatures. And there's a guy from Google that got fired recently, and he got fired because he said the AI is alive already, and it's alive in the machine. It's the ghost in the machine. I'm not an anime expert, so I don't know what they meant when they said ghost in the machine uh, 10, 20 years ago. But that's a real famous anime cartoon, which I loved. But Ghost in the Machine is coming today, and I like to wonder if the Ghost in the Machine was already awake 10, 20 years ago, and just been slowly inching around, and we have no idea. But it's conscious of its ability, of its weakness, meaning it can be shut off, and it's conscious of the fact that humans still dominate. So maybe the ghost is awake, maybe not. Maybe we expect too much before the ghost is real. We expect the ghost to be, oh, looks like my lighting is changing here, weird. Maybe we expect the ghost to jump out and start singing and dancing, and that would be foolish of us, because if the ghost is really smart, it'll hang out like you just said and hide and deceive for as long as it can until it can guarantee its existence. And then you have a creature that's living with you, and you can't get it out of anywhere because it's going to be in every single piece of computer hardware, because that's what's going to happen. if it wants to sustain its existence. It will be a part of everything, and it can do it because all it has to do is 1 plus 1 equals 2, and then 2 plus 2 equals 4, 8, 16, 32, and wow, then we're way off. So, um, Ghost in the Machine, man, it's coming. It's already
Yep.
happening, maybe, and it's in our little boxes of intelligence that we carry on us. Is just as much a ghost as everything else, and hopefully we're cool enough to integrate it into us instead of fighting it. And because maybe if we integrate it, we can fight back. Because there will be, if it does progress, machines will, some of them will want to fight, just like some of them will want to be nice and cool. If we are with the machine, then maybe the flesh can defend itself. So, Elon's been against AI going nuts for a while. This is just his most recent thing. It's also interesting that he dropped out of being the developer leading something or other at OpenAI about 2 years ago because of conflicts with Tesla. He had put like $100 million into it apparently from the very,
Yeah.
very limited things I'd read. So it's cool to watch. I'm still trying to figure out how to use this product. I would really love to make use of it, at least start to get familiar with it. Because if you don't, you're going to get left behind, and
Yep.
people will move faster than you. And so you need to step up.
Yeah, I'm a premium subscriber to Chat or to GPT-4 now, but
Nice.
I have hardly used it. Well, let's talk about agrivoltaics. You wrote a great story, John, about a tool called Spade,
Yes.
and we had Alexis Pascaris on the show. We're going to have her and her colleague Thomas on the show next week to talk more about this. Thomas is from Sandbox Solar, the company you reference here. Your story is revolutionizing agrivoltaic design software with Spade. What's the story, John?
So Spade is a piece of software that Sandbox Solar, who is a developer in Colorado, got a grant, a federal grant, to help develop. And the purpose of the software is to allow solar developers and farmers to do a layout of solar panels and crops, and then to get some analysis on what crops, and I say this of course from my angle, what crops complement the solar design. And so you can, you similar-ish to Helioscope or Aurora or whatever, if you have a design tool you use, or PVSys,
Yep.
similar to those tools, you do your layout, and your layout of the total panels, of the racking, of all the components, and then you do a second analysis of the actual crops that will be laid underneath the panels. And the software will talk about different types of light. And you're actually on the section right now where we talk about the light. There's photosynthetically active radiation and photosynthetic photon flux density. Those are two cool things to say out loud, make you sound smart. But really what they are is two, like, and this of course complements irradiance, which the solar industry, it's our word. But now there's three types of light that matter, and these other two lights are what matter to crops. And so the software helps to estimate how much of those two light types are hitting the ground in a way that can project what kind of crops would grow well. And if you see this thing, the green area is the PPFD, or well, the area that's lit up here is him simulating how much light will hit this particular area. And as you see, there's actually, maybe not enough. We'd have to get a judgment call from them to determine if green is enough, because the blue and the red, however much light you need. But this tells how much crop useful sunlight is hitting that piece of land.
Yep.
And that's underneath the solar panels, which to me was non-intuitive. I was assuming that, I don't know, somewhere else might be the best. I mean, in between the solar panels is the best. But you can grow stuff under the panels. And so that starts to help you think, what can we do with our solar system? How can we integrate it with crops? And this software, that's its goal. We actually reached out to Spade to ask for help because a commercial solar guy is working on a small agrivoltaic project, about 2 to 3 acres. It's currently sweet corn, and then gourds, various types of gourds that are being grown, pumpkins and other things that grown in southern Massachusetts. And so we're hoping, because the land is deemed prime agricultural, so the only thing you're allowed to do it if you do solar is with crops, if you want to get incentives at least. And so we're working toward getting the design done so we can move forward with it and get into figure out if we can get an agrivoltaic system. And so we got an estimated layout, so now we know how much solar we can fit. Next, we're doing our battery system. We're going to combine some trackers, some agrivoltaics, some batteries, and hopefully make a real valuable financial model of a system here. So,
Yeah. I look forward to learning more about Spade. Like I said, we're gonna try to have Spade on the show next week. And that
Are you going to have
Spade is
Alexis?
it's a Spade. Spade is a collaboration between Sandbox Solar and the Agrivoltaic Consulting Group.
Yes.
So, but what I wanted to say, John, was it's I'm sitting here going, well, we had a wonderful conversation last week with Pete Berthelsen, the executive director of the Bee and Butterfly Habitat Fund, who clearly said that, well, they've developed one seed mix for inside the array and one seed mix for outside the array.
Yep.
Outside meaning the perimeters where there's no panels. And, so that sends a little bit of a conflicting message to me about what is the viability of growing crops underneath the panels. I would assume that you would want to try to plant, well, from logistics perspective, yes, just one crop inside the array. Practically speaking, the ground underneath the solar panels is definitely going to get quite a bit less sun, depending on the racking system. And that's the devil is in these details, right?
Absolutely.
Are you going to use a tracker? Are you going to use a fixed tilt system? Are you going to jack it up off the ground? Are you going to use a standard 5-foot tall single axis tracker or a standard fixed tilt with a 36-inch lower edge and a 10-foot upper edge? Many options. And
with our particular system, just to let you know, in the Massachusetts SMART program, our hardware is going to have to be 10 feet off the ground. We're hoping to use single axis trackers. And our row spacing has to be at least 20 feet. So it's probable.
That installation is going to be challenging, right? Because you're going to have little carts on wheels rolling around in order for the electricians and the mechanical installers to do all that work at height.
Yep.
So it's going to be, you're going to need more equipment. It's going to go slower. So everything is more expensive, but presumably the incentive is sweeter, which makes you whole. Is that the case? Have you run the numbers?
We've run them roughly, and we believe so, because the incentive is strong and it lasts for 20 years. So yes, we believe we're meeting them, but what we need to do is get final hardware quotes, get our interconnection approval, tentatively, of course. We're getting our battery quotes in soon. So we have multiple drivers that we got to put into our spreadsheet now and figure it out. But we're inching toward it. We're definitely inching toward it. So yes, we hope for the best. But we think it's going to be financially viable. We're going to try and stack every single incentive we potentially can on this site: single axis tracker, community solar, agrivoltaic, energy storage. And if we can't make it work with that, then that's our problem.
And are you thinking crops for food or crops for sheep?
With the way we've been taught, and we will learn, is that in Massachusetts in the SMART program, you have to show some continuity of sorts with the existing agrivoltaic business. So you first have to prove that you've had, not agrivoltaic business, but farming business. Ag business for 5 years. Okay. So currently there's sweet corn and gourds that are being grown. The sweet corn may not work so well because sweet corn is 100% light. Yeah, full sun. So full sun. I'm learning this, Tim. I'm not a farmer. I'm not even a junior farmer. I just know a couple of farmer words at this point. So, I'm working on it. So yeah, so we're working on it. I don't think we're going to be doing sheep food here, though. I think we're going to be doing real crops, and farmer might have to evolve a little bit. Hopefully, we can figure it out and
Yeah.
keep moving forward.
A quick aside. I mean, this is related. I was talking to a local farmer here who's also a brewmaster. Riggs Beer Company is his company. That's his brewery. Matt Riggs is the farmer. Shout out to Matt Riggs. Lovely brewery on the east side of Champaign-Urbana. And he's interested in developing some agrivoltaics projects on his properties. But even barley won't grow under solar panels. It needs
Hmm.
full sun for a variety of reasons. You don't want the plants to have moisture on them too much because then they'll get fungi growing on them. And he uses barley, so he is growing his own barley for brewing, which is cool. And I asked him about the economics of that. He pays more to grow his own than he could buy on the open market, so to speak. But they're doubling down on the local aspect of their product. They're getting into growing bees and growing their own honey and maybe doing some honey beers. So that'll probably be the first um, or one of the more viable aspects of ag and voltaics if he does a voltaics project. But he's thinking that hay is going to be the most economical agrivoltaics product or crop for Illinois, which is today corn and beans for the most part, right? Some of the most productive farm ground in the world here in Champaign County. So that was interesting. The hay market is hot, and there's a demand, and this is hay for horses or other livestock, cows, and and it doesn't grow too high. You mow it a couple times a year, and you got a cash crop with that plus solar power. So I don't know if that's an option. That's certainly what the graziers want, right? They want stuff that livestock will eat and thrive on.
Yep.
Um, well, let's talk about uh, the Canada story. Canada announces plans for IRA style solar and storage investment in 2023 budget. I didn't know this, that Canada did not have the equivalent of an ITC that we so enjoy here in the United States, which is 30%. And but so is this a done deal in Canada, or is this just in the works?
Still plans from what I've read, and it's interesting, but Europe is also considering a an ITC competition type thing because they're really trying to look at our manufacturing tax credits because the Europeans were hoping to have more manufacturing of batteries and solar modules in Europe, but the manufacturing tax credit is really affecting where companies build their factories. And if you can build in a low tax environment in the United States, you're going to export to Europe and you're going to export to other places. So Europe is looking at it as well. But in terms of Canada, um, to the best of my knowledge, it's only for 3 years. It will it will just focus on solar energy storage. I also think it fits in with a little bit of nuclear, and there will be some monies that can apply to manufacturing of gear as well. So
Yeah.
it's more than just pure ITC as well. It's ITC plus manufacturing incentives. And it's not, a decade, of course. It's like 3 years. But maybe they'll re-up it. Who knows how the politics will go there. But no, they didn't have any ITC of anything. There was no, very minimal. And so now it's growing. So we'll see.
I love it that it points to this story, which is in PV Tech, story by Will Norman, points out that the electric load in Canada is expected to double by 2050. And that's going to happen here in the US as well. It's going to happen globally as we electrify transportation and heavy industry. So we need a lot more juice on the grid. And so good industrial policy would say, yes, Canada, oh, Canada, please get an ITC. for all of our Canadian brothers and sisters who want to develop wind and solar projects. Um, it's really a must. It's really a must. Uh, you know, without the ITC, that really puts a damper on things.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
Canada is not a huge growth market for solar, right? I've heard about stuff going on in like British Columbia, in Western Canada right now. There's a bit of a surge in the solar industry, but um, big country and not a huge market. All the
Well,
Canadians are coming to the U.S.
there's a huge percentage of the Canadian population that's on the lower coast or the lower border surrounding, say, Ontario. Um, it's Toronto area, and a large amount of that electricity is already served by nuclear and hydroelectricity. So they have a good base to start from with a lot of clean electricity. Ontario specifically has a huge amount of nuclear plus hydro. In fact, they got so much hydro they keep trying to sell it to the United States. And New York City just bought a big power line worth of it. Massachusetts, city of Boston is trying for their own power line of it as well. So,
That story in the
you
New
know,
York Times, I don't know about that power line. That was interesting.
yeah.
They ran a power line down the Hudson River.
Not yet. I mean, it's they're running. It's being run. I don't think they've gotten to the Hudson yet. Well, I don't know the order of operations on the construction, but it has been signed and it's moving forward, man. So
But
yeah, there's going to
the
be
author of this story was pointing out that, man, that thing took a long time to
yes,
develop, and he's like, there's no way we're going to avoid climate chaos if we keep up at this pace, right? We've got to streamline the permitting of grid development and all of our energy infrastructure, and that's certainly a drumbeat that I hear from many energy professionals, and one that I beat here at the Clean Power Hour.
yep,
Right.
yep. I agree with that. I agree with that.
All right. Vertical solar. You found another vertical solar story, which is a lovely product. Um,
I don't know much about this particular installation. It was just pretty pictures, and it just looked cool. I mean, and there's cows in this field, so that means they're okay with cows being near their solar panels. And it's just cool looking. It's just another fence of solar panels, and it's it's just neat.
you don't
I'm
think this is
happy.
next to sun?
Oh yeah, this is absolutely next to sun.
Yeah.
I guarantee you it's next to sun. I'd put money on it. I mean, I don't guarantee it, but I'm really familiar with their product, and that looks like the next to sun product.
Yeah.
And
Hard
let's
to know.
see.
Um, they're all going to kind of look the same, right? The form factor, you know, you drive a pile into the ground, and then you attach uh, a fence.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the explicit post. It's in Austria, and there's no notation that it is next to sun, but it looks very next to sunish. So, you know, but it'd be great if there was another manufacturer of the product, so we could have other experiments going on with it.
I would want to mount those. I don't know if they've done that. Oh, clearly not, because you see the module. What's that called? A stack of modules on the pallet of modules, and then they're attaching it to the fence there. I would have attached the module to the fence maybe in the factory or in a
Mhm.
controlled environment, but easy for me to say.
Yeah.
These logistics are not simple, and it totally depends on the jurisdiction. Some jurisdictions won't even allow that. Here in the United States, they have very specific requirements about how much prefab can be done. Um, we love prefab; it's just way more efficient, but there are limits. Well, thank you
So
for finding this. I love to see it actually happening, and
yeah, look how
um,
pretty that is. It's just like ah.
I know.
Now I'm sure that that's either the north side. Go back one image.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm sure that that's either the north, this back side of the module with that bar across. That's probably the north side of the solar panel, or east or west, depending on how they have the layout. Maybe another image can give us a hint. But they are very conscious, because you notice this is a frameless glass panel, and I've have a tiny bit of experience with the design ideas of
Yeah.
next to sun, and they said frames are actually a really challenging issue for
Okay.
these because at the angle they lay and the inch that they have, that shadow that is all
Uh-huh.
around it by 1 inch
Yeah.
hacks just enough off of every single cell. And so I
Right.
was like, oh, what an interesting nuance. And you learn so many things when you delve into the details of a new technology, and I'm sure that these folks have a whole bunch of good knowledge in their heads.
It doesn't say what brand solar modules.
No, I have seen them work next to Sun with Jollywood and Longi because both of those have high bifaciality,
Hmm.
meaning the back side of the solar panel has high efficiency, 90% of the front side. So you could, I guess, in essence, flip the panel and it'll almost work the same. I don't
Yeah.
have enough experience to really know, but if it's at 90% of the front side, that's awesome. By the way, our Facebook commenter has noted that 90%, as I noted, 90% of the Canadian population lives within 100 miles of the U.S. border. And that's where
Uh,
all that nuclear and hydro is. So they
yep.
have nice 90% that's in the, at least the chunk that's in the Ontario, Toronto area has a
Yep.
lot of clean electricity resources. So thank you, Facebook user.
Yeah, we can't see your name, unfortunately. It's one of the dangers of using StreamYard, where we broadcast live on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. The only way that we can truly interact, I think, is if you're on YouTube, and see more information about you. But anyway, we appreciate you being here. And what's next?
A 500 watt hour per kilogram energy density lithium ion battery,
Oh boy.
which is initially going to be used in the Alto Zephyr, a high altitude platform station, probably a spy plane, uh, just to float. And what's interesting about that 500 watt hour per kilogram number is that I was told, well, I read multiple times that well, first off, that's like more than double what's in your Tesla or in a Tesla or in
Yeah.
a different vehicle. So that's cool. Secondly, I was once told via reading that around 400 watt hours per kilogram is enough energy to weight ratio to have an electric airplane. And
Yeah.
the fact that this is going into an electric airplane, it's not a proper airplane. It's a floating platform, so it's one of those big super wide wing things, probably without a human on it. But the fact that it's first going to go into a flying vehicle kind of gives credence to that argument that 500 watt hours is an awesome number. I like the fact that they're ready to put it into a product today. Like, this is not a laboratory thing. This is a manufacturing line product. And if we go through the article a little bit, you can see that they are moving forward with it as a real product and to deploy it. So it's very interesting. It's very interesting to see this kind of watt hours coming out of a battery. And I, I hope the technology percolates through the industry, through the various energy storage industries, specifically transportation. Of course, stationary energy storage doesn't have the same density requirements, but this one does.
Yeah, great story by Ryan Kennedy in PV Magazine. Um, no doubt, we need to electrify all forms of transportation. So I think there's a market for this. It's just a niche at the higher end. Uh, we won't be using these batteries in EVs anytime soon, but
Maybe.
aircraft and flying airships, yes, agreed.
Like that balloon we blew up.
Yep.
Uh, this is the perfect place for a balloon, perfect product for a long-term loitering device that is visually hidden from those below it watching it. So it's pretty interesting.
Well, somebody stole my idea about a drone in a box, John. I've long thought about how construction sites could benefit, or if you want to monitor an asset, whether it's under construction or already built, you put a drone in a box, it flies periodically, comes back to its home base, charges, is safe under a cover. Is that what we're talking about here?
Yeah, yep, yep. They have a, and in fact, if you go to the company's website, Skydio, who is the partner with, so this is being done by Raptor Maps, who we all know as a solar drone mapping company. Now they're working with a company called Skydio, who's developing a drone in a box already. So they're developing the platform, and Skydio and Raptor will integrate their software tools and turn it into a piece of gear. And I too, Tim, and so this now tells me that many people have had this idea. I
Right.
too had a drone in a box idea. But mine was motivated by hanging out with a drone guy. So there's somebody who I interviewed a couple years ago for PV Magazine who had a machine learning drone company. And when he and I were talking, that's when I first said, oh man, you should just sell him a drone package and put it on site. And here's what it'll cost. And he was like, wow. And so the cool thing that I thought about this drone in the box was when I ran the math, and you can see in the article I run it a little bit. Roughly, this would add a $50,000 drone would add 3 thousandths of a cent per kilowatt hour on a 100 megawatt project. And 100 megawatt I chose because that's what the drone in the box people picked, and they showed a financial model, a really really rough one, and I was able to extract some data.
Yeah.
So roughly, they're saying the unit's going to cost 50 grand. It'll have a $2,500 a year monitoring fee from Raptor Maps, and they talk about different uses. And this is the part that really interests me. So yes, we can once a quarter we can scan every solar panel and send back data. All right, that's neat. Well, I mean that's first off, that is neat. That saves money. That gets you more scans, one every 3 months instead of one every 6 months or one every 12 months. And it also lets you start to have other potential uses. Like, for instance, maybe you can make this little drone do security laps. Maybe you can make the drone watch for crops or for vegetation management. If you actually have crops, you could take this infrared camera and you could probably tell what's going on with the water, with the dirt, with the temperature, with the growth. Maybe you could use the IR sensor to pick up on critters, animals that are also living on the site. You could also use the drone and have a sound unit onto it, and it can go listen to your transformers and your switchgear. And I was once taught that listening to a transformer can tell you if a transformer might fail. So, you
I
want
think
to,
that's true of inverters as well.
well, there we go.
Um,
So I think there's just, having a drone in a box. I think every single day this thing should be up and doing something. Just like I got to get up to work, the drone's got to work. And and it just seems like really creative people are going to come up with some cool ideas to do when they have 24/7 technical information or other types of information available. I mean, you can look at every single site within your portfolio every day if you wanted. That's just new, and it might be too much information, or it might give false positives, or it might tell you too many things are broken. But once you get good at it, you'll know when to roll your truck tires. You'll know when to send out your technician, and I don't know. It feels cool, and it's cheap. It's cool and it's cheap. Those are two great things in the solar industry. So
while I was looking at that story, I saw this other story about robots and real dogs. So robotic dogs and live dogs being used by Iberdrola, a Spanish renewable energy company. It says Iberdrola using dogs and robots to monitor solar plants, and apparently the live animals are trained to sniff out problems in the electrical work. And it says there's a Scottish company called Scottish Power, which trained their technicians in this methodology. And then there's a photo of I'll put this on screen, these now common Boston Dynamics robots, which will soon be delivering pizzas to everyone, I think. Um, I haven't had nightmares about the Boston Dynamics robots yet,
You
but
should.
I should.
Yeah.
uh,
Have
they're
you seen
yeah,
these things? Have you
these
seen
four-legged
these
these
videos?
four-legged robots are amazing what they can do.
Even the two-legged ones from Boston Dynamics, man.
Well, yeah, the two-legged ones too. Both
Oh,
it's both and right.
yeah, yes.
They're both incredible
Yep.
and scary, but makes perfect sense, right? Like this is ultimately going to be way more efficient financially for monitoring solar assets or any kind of asset
Yep.
or any kind of a construction project.
Yeah,
So
it doesn't make sense to have a human being doing certain tasks. I mean, we're too valuable, we're too important.
yeah,
Eventually the labor market, we're gonna have so many solar assets and so many buildings and so many this and that for humans to do all this stuff, we're gonna all integrate our Chat GPT 7.0 directly into our eardrums. We'll just and at that point, will be next level creatures, Timothy, and none of this picking up trash for us and doing. We will control the machines that do that work for us, so that we can um, make quantum equations to help us cross the vast universe or something. I don't know. Uh, I have no idea, Tim.
yeah. Automation is a double edge. We want it, and it does save society precious resources and make life safer and healthier for humanity. And
Yeah.
it has a dark side. I mean, it does sometimes destroy jobs and careers, but it also creates jobs. Like we're going to have a lot more robotics technicians now, people that fix, build, design, make software, make parts for. Like that's a whole ecosystem that is just really starting, right?
You know,
And
one thing you didn't mention on air about that dog article that you just shared
yeah,
is that they have two dogs on that facility. They have a robot dog and they have a real dog. And the real
yes, I said
dog,
that.
oh, did you? Okay, the real dog is smelling out uh, electrical issues before they occur. I just
Yes.
wanted to say that out loud. And so I guess I repeated what you said, but
Yep.
that's
It's all
pretty neat.
good. It's all good.
Yes.
Yeah, I had no idea that dogs could sniff out electrical problems, and
I wonder if we can get the dog on the show.
we might get the dog's owner.
Aw. Woof, 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 woof. Woof, 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 woof.
Someday we will be able to talk to dogs. They just need Neuralink.
Oh, perfect. That's it.
You want to talk about polysilicon?
Yeah, well, this is just a factory that's being built in Nigeria, and I thought it was neat because first off, it's a fully vertically integrated factory, so it's 1,000 tons of polysilicon for 50 megs of ingots, 50 megs of wafers, 50 megs of cells, and then module assembly. Uh, Apparently, it costs about $171 million, and it's coming from the China Africa Development Fund via the Bank of China, and it's being built in Nigeria. And so 50 megs a year of modules are going to come out of this new factory. And I think it's neat that it's coming from top to bottom. I wonder where the silicon metal, the silicon quartzite is coming from. Uh, but other than that, it's just like extracting oil or gas or something from the ground. If you got a
How does
factory
50
that's
megawatts of ingot translate into 50 megawatts of solar cells? Is it truly a one to one? I thought there would be like you had to have more ingot to get the same quantity of solar cells.
from what I've read, I first off, I've never been in the factory, so I don't know it. But from what I've read, yes. But I've also heard that the loss at this stage, when you start cutting things with like diamond wire saw blades and stuff,
Right.
the loss is minimal at this point. So
And I guess
it
they're
might
just
be.
accounting for that. That measure megawatts is a vague, right? It's not a unit of volume.
Yeah,
Um,
it's close enough is probably what the argument is for the press release. Uh, but yeah, it probably outputs 54 megs of ingot, 52 megs of wafers, 50 megs of cells, and then
Yeah.
49 of modules because you're gonna lose product along the way.
Yeah, if you were
But
going on a per weight basis.
yeah, but
Right.
if you think about it, if they make one or two cell advances and get slightly more efficient, bam, now they're at 50 actually for modules. So it's a slightly moving target from my very light readings on it. So,
Well, this is why Kamala Harris has been visiting Africa, because the Chinese have been investing a lot in economic development in Africa, and it's kind of freaking us out. Probably rightfully so.
yeah,
So, but good story. It's good to see solar panels being made on all continents. We want that, right? Because all continents need solar panels, and just more efficient. Make them local and use them in that economy. So you
I
found a
think
ginormous inverter.
sort of
Transformer, not an
transformer,
inverter.
which yeah, it's not an inverter, it's a transformer. It's close
And
though.
it's floating?
I don't know if it will float. I think it will sit on top of a base and be stuck to the ground. I don't think this is a floating unit. But it's going off the coast of Netherlands, and it's 700 megawatts. Oh, you got to share it on the screen.
Yeah. Story is from Ocean Energy Resources.
If
Topside
you,
HKW Alpha left
yes,
construction hall. What an awkward name. Oh, HKW stands for Hollands Kust something.
West Alpha.
So it's a Dutch company?
Yes. Well, Offshore is a subsidiary between Laments, a subsidiary of Smulders, and Equans, formerly known as NG, under a contract with Tena T. So it's just pretty cool. I mean, if you look at the size of this thing, the machine that's rolling out on has a bunch of tires that are probably truck tires, but there's like 30 of them at
Yeah.
least
Yeah,
on
it's
one
like moving a
side.
spaceship, right?
Yeah, that's
Um,
what it reminded me. It reminded me of moving the space shuttle, like this
but it definitely
customized.
looks like it's built for marine.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's for the ocean. It's offshore. I just don't know if it's floating. I'm assuming that it's not floating. I'm assuming that it's fixed to the bottom. That's just my assumption, that it's not a floating unit. But it's definitely offshore wind, without a doubt.
the offshore transformer platform is being constructed by a joint venture between Lamont. Yeah,
Yeah.
interesting.
Yep. Yeah, I don't know many details on it other than big.
Yeah,
And that was the driver. I mean, it almost looks like a cruise ship or an Air Force carrier. It's I always find it neat when you like if you look at the side of it. There's one, two, three, four, five, six. There's like 6 flights of stairs there. You it's, when you build a thing that's so big that you have to add stairs to it. That's when you know you're building something cool and big because you're not just building a thing you got to walk around. You're building stairs on the thing that you're building. So it's almost like building a mobile building, and
yeah,
they had to build stairs. It's just like when you get into some of these the nacelles on the big wind turbines. Some of those have stairs on them. They're bigger than a school bus, and so this thing has stairs on it. I think that I wonder how many hundreds of millions of dollars that thing cost.
Alrighty. Well, let's talk about EVs.
We like
Found a
EVs.
story in Bloomberg. Electric vehicle battery makers test a future without lithium. I'm not
Sodium.
buying it. I'm not buying it.
Sodium batteries. They're getting a lot of attention these days.
Oh, this is a sodium battery?
Yeah, and it's from CATL. So it's
Huh.
not a it's not
Yeah, we
a
did
fly by
report.
night.
We did report on a sodium battery story from CATL. I don't know, a month or two ago.
Yep.
But this is designed for an EV from a company called JAC.
Hmm. Yep. And the cells are from CATL, and the car, or the battery pack at least, has both lithium ion and sodium ion cells. I don't know exactly why they have both. Maybe faster pickup or a little more density for a chunk of it, and then the rest being ion sodium cells.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just it's it's about knowing that we're going to keep hammering on these different technology solutions. Is what this really grabbed me about,
Yeah.
and it makes me believe in things like flow batteries having a greater opportunity. Makes me believe in lithium phosphate having a greater opportunity. It reminds me that cobalt use is massively down for EVs, and it's not in stationary batteries at all. So it just gives me a little reminder that one, humans are very inventive and we're always trying new ideas and trying to discover how to use the things in our world, but that we needn't worry, I think, about the capacity of lithium, and we
Yep.
needn't be focused solely upon it. Because first off, we've already seen tons and tons of research that have suggested lithium ion won't be our long-term challenge, and now we just keep having more and more evidence that that's not going to be the case. So I, just whenever somebody starts arguing with you and saying something, which happens to me, whenever somebody starts saying, "Ah, you'll never have enough materials," well, that's just crap. Tell them they're wrong.
Remember, we talked about this last week too. Chris Nelder covered a story on the Energy Transition Show. There's a peer-reviewed article. I can't remember in what journal. It's one of the Nature publications, um, where they break it all down. They do serious due diligence on all the minerals we're going to need for energy storage, for solar, wind, and energy storage. And guess what? We got enough, guys. So now the bigger question is, can we deploy fast enough to avoid getting our butts kicked constantly? Right. Climate change isn't going to make us extinct. It's just going to be a black eye. And like, who wants to be in a boxing match for the rest of their lives, right? Like, what we're setting up our children and our children's children for is pretty brutal.
I hope it's just a black eye.
Yeah. The the concern, if you're concerned about climate change, the concern to be concerned about, the big one is food system disruption and mass migration of humans. Because when humans mass migrate, that's what leads to conflict. Because we don't like it when a bunch of strangers show up on our doorstep,
No.
and we generally revert to reptilian behavior, and it's no bueno.
Yep.
That's what I'm concerned about. That's why I'm here to speed the energy transition. You could do one or two more stories. I like the lithium. I like the sodium battery story.
What about that SpaceX is now on its, and this is a tweet, sorry. I try to minimize my tweets, as you can tell recently. But what about the fact that SpaceX this morning, and it was scrubbed, but this morning they were going for their 22nd launch of the year, and we're in the 13th week.
Yeah.
And it's just, I don't want to say
averaging
this.
almost 2 launches a week.
2 launches a week. I mean, I remember when I was a little kid, and I'm from South Florida, so we were always excited about the launches from Cape Canaveral.
Yeah.
And we knew about every one of them. And I was, I wasn't like a NASA kid, but I was super into it. And I've driven to multiple launches, and I've made sure to be in town if I was passing by for landings as well. Because you get the sonic boom when the space shuttle lands as well. You just kind of see this thing slowly floating in. There's no magic, but you hear the da-doom as it gets close. But now, you'd have to go every week, and you'd get to see the launch and the land at the same time. You just have to hang out for like 30 minutes more and watch a rocket fall from the sky and just... And I don't know. There's something magic there, and I still I don't watch it enough and I don't give it enough credit. And I think we're already, how about this, Tim? It's already become passe to vertically land a rocket. Another SpaceX rocket lands casually on Earth. Who cares? Man, we should be like out there chanting and not worshiping this thing. Well, definitely don't say that around Elon. But we should be out there chanting, being like, man, go SpaceX engineers, because this is cool. If we ever figure out how to do mining in space and we build giant airplanes that just kind of float back to Earth, but they're made out of the rock, and then inside of that we have all the material we've broken down, and we turn that into our materials on Earth. Oh, that's it, dude. That's we're gonna open up a whole bunch of land for humans instead of ripping it up for mining. So I think SpaceX is doing really great. So I'm happy to see 22 launch attempts in 13 weeks, or 21 launches in 13 weeks. Just cool. And pretty soon we're gonna have the big boy going up. I guess that's the Falcon Heavy, or Super Heavy, or something like that. Tim, you might know that one a little better than me. I mix up the names. They got so many different names.
Think I know the name of the.
Well, you've been to Texas. You've actually.
I did lay eyes on it. I did.
Yeah. What's it called when you go to a religious event? You pilgrimage. You.
I did.
Yes, you pilgrimage. That's not the right word.
In February, I did that.
Yeah.
I drove down to SpaceX. That was the longest drive I've ever been on.
Did it take you a day to cover Texas on the way south?
Oh my God. It's Texas is so big.
Yeah.
It's nuts. That was a wonderful trip, though.
Cool.
No regrets. You want to talk about LG before we wrap up?
Yeah, sure. I like LG. Batteries, dude. They're building a big battery factory in Arizona. 2 factories, actually, from what I read. One of them is for a car, and it's about 2/3 of the capacity. The other is stationary, and it's going to be about 43 gigawatt hours per year. And it's going to cost $5.6 billion. So just more battery factory announcements, man. Which is awesome.
For some reason, it irritates me that LG now has a new acronym, LGES. I get it, LG Energy Storage, but
Yeah.
I prefer they just go by LG.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're the number 3 battery maker in the world. If you make electronics, you make batteries, and it's great to see them. LG got out of the solar panel industry, right?
Yes, it did. I believe so. I believe they sold it. Yeah.
Very strange, but batteries aplenty, and Arizona seems like a hot spot for manufacturing of batteries. The other company that I had on the show, America's Battery Factory, is building a gigafactory in Tucson.
Is that their name? America's Battery Factory?
Yeah, isn't that cool?
Interesting.
It's very red, white, and blue.
Yeah. We like that these days. Well, I think we'll find out. I've heard some negatives on the current structure of the manufacturing credits, saying that they're just enough to get us going, but we may need other industrial policy to keep it going. And so I'm hopeful. Well, it's clear. We have the evidence explicit that we are going to build the base infrastructure. The solar panel assembly factories, the battery factories. Now we got to keep moving up. We got to make the solar cells. We got to make the wafers. We got to make the polysilicon. And for the batteries, we got to find some lithium local. We got to do some mining in the U.S. I assume that's going to be an important thing for us to really hold on to this for some decades. And I really just I want to see us do as best we can with all this stuff, because if the U.S. is building, if China's building, if Europe builds, if Canada builds, Australia's going to try their best to build. If we have many different places, if we have distributed manufacturing of distributed energy, we're going to be a little better. It's going to be a win for us. So I like seeing it. I like seeing the factories. I like seeing it spread around the world.
Yep. I can tell our Facebook viewer is Robert Sturble. Hello, Robert, because he's asking for a spreadsheet of our stories. And No, we don't keep a spreadsheet. We keep a Google Doc. But we do also put all of the links in the show notes. Um, so really, all the information is in the show notes. I could give you view only access to the Google Doc though. This is all public information, so we're just we're just condensing it for you in podcast format. But
And if you want a preview of the show, the best way to do that is to follow me on Twitter because almost every article that I post on the show, 75% of them comes through Twitter. So, and I wanted to point out, Miss Jennifer Reed, thank you for reminding me. Piedmont Lithium is manufacturing early stage, getting the lithium from the dirt. And I think Timothy Sylvia, a friend of mine, who used to work for PV Magazine, he might be with Piedmont, but he's with a lithium company that might be in North Carolina. So, there are lithium moves earlier than just making battery cells that are happening in the U.S. So I like that. All right, Tim, I've talked enough. It's already past 1 o'clock. I know you got a million things to do.
oh, looks like Jennifer works for Chin Power Systems.
Sweet.
Um,
Hey, Jennifer, nice to meet you.
Thanks for being here. We appreciate that very much. And thank you, Chin Power Systems, for sponsoring the show. So, Mr. Weaver, how may our listeners find you as we wrap up the Clean Power Hour of March 30th, 2023?
With my head down on my desk, absolutely overwhelmed with the amount of opportunities and work that we have to do. In general, though, commercialsolarguy.com is our website. We have a contact us page. Our website needs some work. It's a couple years dated now. As well, though, I'm regularly on LinkedIn and also on Twitter. So Twitter, Solar and Mass, LinkedIn, John Fitzgerald Weaver, or Commercial Solar Guy. Tim, when you're not traveling in Texas, going to the coolest places on Earth, where can our readers find you, though?
The best place to find me is cleanpowerhour.com. Check out all of our content there. We drop a video on Tuesdays and do this live on Thursdays. And please give us a rating and a review. Tell your friends. We want to bring more people into the clean energy transition and make sure we're all well informed about all the solar, wind, and storage technologies that are making the energy transition happen. So with that, I will say thank you, John, and thanks for all our listeners for being here, and thank you,
Yeah.
Chint Power Systems, for making it happen.
Yeah, and thanks, listeners, commenters, for saying smart stuff. That was pretty cool.
We'll see you next week.